This is going to be a hip internal rotation stretch, specifically in the sleeper position supine, which is laying on your back. This is a very intro hip internal rotation mobility stretch. Of course, we're going to add PAILs rails at the end as well. So the first part of this video is going to show you how to get into the stretch, what to feel, how to set it up best for you. The second part is going to go into the PAILs rails, which is the strength part of the stretch, so that we make sure that when we are improving our flexibility, we're also gaining access to usable ranges of motion. So first and foremost, you're going to find a comfortable position on your back, somewhere where you have a little space to move around. This is going to be a stretch for my right leg. So I'm going to move my heel away a little bit from my glute, and then I'm going to walk it away out to the side, to the right, and I'm slowly going to let my knee fall in towards the other knee. What we want to make sure we do is keep our glutes heavy into the ground. A lot of people will start to fall away, and now we are adding our spine into this movement, which is no longer just a hip stretch. If we are looking for a hip stretch, we want to actively press into the ground to keep our glutes and our hips and pelvis into the ground. So let that knee fall in, and you should start to feel a stretch here. If your knee bothers you in this movement, you can bring it out further or in further. We can walk our foot out, away more, or in. And then to add a little bit more overpressure, you're going to take the other leg, you're going to lift it up, and you're going to pull down. You will feel your hip want to pop up. You're going to have to actively press your hip down, and then you can feel a nice deep outside hip glute, more like lateral hip stretch. It's really, really deep for the hip capsule. Now, as you're sitting here, you should be able to relax into it a little bit. We should feel this kind of winding at our hip to get the stretch that we want. And then you're going to hold that stretch for about 2 minutes. Things we want to avoid is any sort of pain in the knee. So if that's your issue and you can't find a good position, find a different position for your hip internal rotation stretch. And we also want to avoid hip groin sensations, which are going to be closing angles. So if you feel that, we are no longer stretching only our hip capsule. We are also probably jamming our hip joint, which is not ideal. So don't get into that position. Once the stretch is up, after the 2 minutes or the prescribed amount of time, you're then going to do PAILs and rails. PAILs is going to be the progressive tissue or the stuff that is on stretch. For the purposes of this video and for this exercise, PAILs is going to be thinking about my ankle driving down into the ground while my knee is coming up. We are thinking about doing this type of a motion. So we are moving into external rotation because there is an I, or for isometric, we are not moving. So I want you to think about slowly contracting, ramping that contraction up. My other leg is not allowing this to move. That's a true isometric contraction. You should feel all of the stuff that was stretching now start to contract. Ramp up to the prescribed intensity, hold for the prescribed amount of time. Typically this is a higher intensity, holding for about 20 to 30 seconds. Then ramp it down. Once that is finished, we then move into the rails contraction. Rails contraction is going to be the stuff that would pull you into a deeper stretch. For this exercise, that is going to feel like the opposite of the PAILs contraction. So you're going to think about trying to rotate your ankle off the ground. It's not going to go anywhere, but this type of movement, we are thinking about rotating our thigh down, but we are keeping our glute here, so the movement is at the hip, right? So now we are thinking about rotating deeper into that movement, trying to lift the ankle, thinking the knee is coming down, but really, really thinking about the movement coming from your thigh. You might be able to get a little deeper of a stretch there, ramp up to the desired intensity, and then from there, hold for the prescribed amount of time, typically about 20 to 30 seconds. That is one round of PAILs rails after the stretch. As we progress, you might want to add more time, add more rounds of that, but this is where we start for everybody for the bare minimum of getting started with hip internal rotation stretch with PAILs rails.